usted tiene temas puntuales sobre sus compañías, cómo abrir compañías, cómo cerrar compañías, cómo solucionar problemas con el IRS, aquí está nuestro abogado John Mitchell, que él les va a dar toda la información, les va a echar la mano y les va a ayudar a solucionar los problemas que ustedes tienen en sus compañías. Yo soy Gustavo Soto, me voy despidiendo por el día de hoy y por supuesto queremos agradecerles por habernos acompañado una vez más desde aquí, desde Houston, desde la ciudad espacial, en Now Media Televisión, la primera cadena bilingüe de los Estados Unidos. No olviden, por favor, seguirnos en todas nuestras redes sociales, plataformas digitales. Compartan este contenido para que llegue a más personas. Un abrazo y bendiciones. This has been a Now Media.
Welcome back to the show, everybody. We've got Shannon St. Val back on the show. We had her, back-to-back weeks. We try to get her on as much as we can because one of the topics that people are dying to talk about and learn more about is short-term rentals. And Shannon, you've done it. You've scaled your own short-term rental business, and now you property manage for others. So, we get a question a lot that, how do you scale? So from somebody that's done it, how does somebody that's looking to, get into the short-term rental business, or maybe they have a couple, how do they bolt on units on top of that?
Man, it's I'd say start off with market research. That's huge. Picking great locations with great property types. I remember going into one market, and I'm not going to name that market, but I went into one market and we didn't do so well. And in hindsight, I didn't really realize like how much I didn't know about that market. And so before you invest, making sure you do that, or before you start to think through scaling. The other big thing is just people. It doesn't run without, when you're scaling, you can't be everywhere. Yeah. So having really great people, reliable vendors, reliable staff is huge. And then when it comes to scaling, I'd say your systems, operations, you got to tighten those up, creating processes and procedures. Big thing when it comes to scaling.
What about the money side? Do a lot of people finance the Airbnbs? Do they buy the property with cash? Put cash into the furniture and the design, and then do a cash out refi like we do on the long-term rental side. How do people bank these things?
Just depends. I find that most people, when they're coming in, so depends on which side. So if you're managing for someone and it's the owners, it's typically their second home, and then they want to make some extra cash. So it's a husband and wife and have a second home. But when it comes to investors, I find that people are partnering up. So I suggest, if you want to help scale, partner up with someone to help kind of mitigate some of that risk, the financial risk. And then when it comes to investment properties, obviously interest rates are really high, a little bit higher now, and so. Depending on the price point of the property, try to get creative with seller financing. We did something like that in New York. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's really interesting. So seller financing. So you find a place that you like. How do you get those opportunities? How do you find those?
Market research, having
networking, I guess.
A really good realtor. If you have a really good realtor that knows the space, that knows the area, and you can just get some pocket deals. I have an amazing realtor. Shout out to Stan Monfort, based out of New York City. He's amazing. And he's able to find pocket deals for me, always keeps me up to date. Finding an amazing realtor can kind of help tell you like, oh, this property would be good for short-term rental, and you can seize some really good, good costs or good price properties. Yeah.
Gotcha. So pocket listings. Do you ever you think wholesalers is the wholesaling community pretty prolific in the New York area? Do you ever look at deals from wholesalers?
They're not as common that I've seen. At least I haven't necessarily been as involved with wholesalers, but I used to do some, other investment deals with multifamily, and those I've come across. But not as much in the short-term rental space, and I'm not sure why. At least in my region, so or my network, I haven't necessarily. But I don't know. Have they been good for you? I don't know. Like, have they wholesalers been a resource?
It's hard. I mean, not as much, not as much recently, just because, with interest rates going up and the price of real estate going up, everybody wants more money. So the seller wants more cash, the wholesaler wants more cash. You got to pay the bank more. Deals don't pencil. So I mean, really, it's like you said, it's networking with realtors that have pocket listings that can bring you, a good deal that works on paper. If you're the first one to see it and it works, you buy it, right? So then somebody
Yeah,
like you never
exactly.
sees it. So and it doesn't hit the market. I mean, it seems like that's a really good way to buy stuff. But in terms of I guess from a risk standpoint, um, what are your thoughts on how many do you accumulate in a certain area or a certain neighborhood before you start to de-risk? If somebody scales their portfolio, I mean, you're managing dozens right now. What do you tell people? Do you buy a different city over? What's the kind of thought process on de-risking the portfolio?
So one, go with the area that you know first, because if it's in your backyard, you know it, you know
Yeah.
the trends, you kind of understand the type of people that are coming in. But as you scale, you may want to consider obviously doing in different markets. So for me, I was in New York during COVID. It was awful. It was the epicenter of COVID, right?
Yeah.
But then having houses in Martha's Vineyard in the Hamptons, upstate, that saved my business because I was
Oh,
able to
wow.
keep afloat during that time period. But then if you're, let's say in the same, you're in the same market, maybe diversifying with, different size units, like a 2 bedroom, a 4 bedroom,
Yeah.
just different sizes. So you can attract different types of guests. Yeah. So yeah,
I
I would,
just
go ahead.
I always think, the portfolio risk reduction mechanism is always something that I try to think through, because sometimes I want to pinch myself because I think the returns in this asset class are too good. They are not sustainable. How can I make them sustainable? Because we make too much money in short-term rentals. And so I'm always curious and bounce that question off to people like, is that something that we should be thinking through? Like, are the returns too good? Somebody's going to eat into them at some point, right?
I mean, and they have, like, we've seen it. We've seen it in our portfolio with the houses upstate New York. Like, it was a cash cow about 2 years ago, and now the revenue that we receive is, I would say, roughly 40% less, which is
Oh,
significant,
man,
right?
a lot.
So if you were banking on that, if you were barely breaking even to begin with because you bought at the top of the market, that could really make a difference and really determine whether you can stay in there or not. So people are coming in, there's more inventory because everyone's realizing that the profit margins are better than long term. So yeah, so it's important to de-risk and make sure that you figure out other ways to mitigate risk. Oh, the other thing I would say is de-risking in terms of where do you get your type of guest. So instead of just the typical short-term rental sites, perhaps on you can work with midterm stays or
Oh, yeah.
the corporate housing
Smart.
or nurses that come in. So there's a few other platforms and stuff. We're working with insurance companies. That's something we're partnering up with to work with insurance companies as well as
Smart.
need short-term housing.
Is,
So
is there a way to find the insurance companies to have them look at your unit, or do you wait on them to call you?
well, you got to be proactive in this game.
Yeah.
So, and this is
Like everything.
this is one of those things when you have scale that you can do. So this is maybe step two, right? So I actually reached out to them. I reached out to maybe two or three, and then they have a process where you can basically submit your properties, and then you can get in their database. So it's a little bit pounding the pavement and going door to door, but you can build those relationships.
But man, you get 6 months at short-term rental rates. I mean, you kind of locked in guaranteed income for a while. It's a really smart. It's really
They
smart.
pay good rates. They pay good rates as well. Yeah.
You mentioned, scaling up to a certain level. Like, where do you think, from a management standpoint and ownership standpoint, what's the number of short-term rental units where it kind of just gets easier? You kind of cross that scale hump to where you're like, now you're seeing really some of the efficiencies of some of the systems, some of the processes, the people. Is it a number of units? Is it number of stays? How do you quantify that?
So it's hard to say the exact number of units, but I do know you start to need. So I think about it in terms of resources. Like I can't just hire one person to it's not efficient to hire one person just to handle one property, right?
Yeah.
Because full time, like to pay a full time person to hire one. But once you
Sure.
get with about 30 properties, you can hire two people or one of you to kind of handle the different shifts. And so it's more about, I don't know if it's the exact number, but it's thinking about resources and can you have them full time to work on it while you work on scaling some more.
Yep.
So I don't know. Do you have a good number? I don't know. What's a good number? I'm like, what's up? I
Oh
don't know
man,
the number, but it's about the scale. I guess, yeah, about maybe 20, 10 to 20 is when
yeah.
you kind of need someone and you need to think about, I would say roughly that. Yeah.
Yeah, you're my mentor in this area. So I'm looking at you for advice. I don't have any. I've got a few Airbnbs, but not to the level that you do. One question that's a little bit out of topic, not to throw you off a little bit, but insurance is one of the things that has gotten incredibly expensive for us. I mean, every single renewal goes up. We've tried to mitigate. What are you seeing on the insurance side?
Insurance is a very tough topic because most the fact that you're doing commercial business in a residential home means that your premiums are going to be more. There are some alternatives that you can use to supplement your current one. There's a few companies out there. Not going to endorse one specifically, but this is a tough space. We've also tried to have owners self-insure in terms of kind of putting aside a little pot for, damages or whatever could happen, but the basic stuff is covered. But this is tough. This is tough. It's a tough space because it's expensive. Yeah. We're still trying to figure out think about just even medical, like it's hard to figure out like which one and comparing policies. So it's a tough space.
We've just gotten, I mean, I'd love to, when you kind of figure out the insurance side of this, keep me in the loop first, call me first. Cause, we've just seen, from a building insurance perspective, it's gone up every single year, contents, liability. I mean, it's just, you get to certain markets, you're like, can I buy short-term rentals in Florida anymore? I don't know. I can't afford like the building insurance, So, well, look, Shannon, I sorry to throw you off on that last question right there, but appreciate the insight as always. When you come on the show, it's always great to talk about this stuff. You're on the forefront of what's happening in the short-term rental world, and there's a lot of people, investors, pivoting to that world right now. So, if you're in the Northeast, you're looking for somebody to manage your real estate and your short-term rentals, call Shannon. Shannon, what's your Instagram handle again for the company?
Yeah, Stay with Elevate on Instagram and Facebook. And you can reach out to me directly on LinkedIn. So
love it.
Shannon St. Val. Yeah.
Well, until next time, Shannon, thanks again for joining me on today's show. We'll see you guys after a quick break.
Hi, I am Noura Al-Masri and welcome to Echoes of Impact with Noura. Join me on a journey where we celebrate the power of women in business, the driving force behind growing nonprofits, and the architects of change in our community. We'll explore strategies for building successful businesses, increasing cash flow, and saving on taxes. Tune in to Echoes of Impact with Noura, because when women succeed, we all thrive. See you there.
Are you nearly maxed out on your credit cards? It doesn't matter if you're using your credit cards for fun or to survive. At the end of the month, your statements come in, and you can either pay them or you can't. If you can't, late fees and interest rates get tacked on. And now you're struggling just to make the minimum payment due. Do you feel trapped? Am I talking to you? Good, because I personally researched some companies that can help you. They may be able to reduce your credit card balances by 50% and stop the late fees. If you qualify, please call our special debt hotline number right now for a complimentary free 5-minute consultation. Deal with your credit card problem now before it gets much worse and put more money back in your pocket. Trust me, I've been there too. Call right now. Call 855-993-2096 right now. That's 855-993-2096. 2096.
Have you ever had to hire multiple contractors? It is a daunting task that takes a lot of management time and impacts the core business or the company that time you're spent with your loved ones. At Texas Home Property Solutions, you can count on a responsible company that can tackle all your general contractor needs. Electricity, painting, remodeling, plumbing, air conditioning, and roofing. Hire us and forget it. With over 20 years of experience, Texas Home Property Solution will deliver your project on time and within budget, with the high level of quality and integrity, no matter the size or complexity. If you are a company, a government institution, or an individual who needs a general contractor, you need Texas Home Property Solution. Take a decisive step and call us today for a free consultation.
All right, welcome back, everybody. Dr. Azad, welcome back to the show. How are you today?
I'm well, Andrew. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Well, look, appreciate you being on the show. And for those of you guys that are new to the show or just now tuning in or haven't seen, we've interviewed Dr. Azad a couple of times. She owns a commercial real estate firm that invests primarily in, I mean, really, it may be exclusively in retail real estate, Class A across the Southeast. And Dr. Azad, I'd like to, kind of develop a topic around, market analysis and underwriting. How do you guys approach a new market to invest in? You mentioned that you're primarily across the Southeast. Are you just looking in the geographic area of those states in that region?
So I'm a Texan first, American second. I tend to buy south of the Mason-Dixon. I'm Southern, so I like keeping my money in the South. But I'm actually starting to expand and move generally slowly out of that as we get bigger. And now that I've just entered the institutional realm, and I'm now looking at starting to get institutional funds, and now we're talking hundreds and hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars, we're going to start playing that game. I love real estate because it's just a series of games. Whether you're doing inner city, you're doing suburban, you're doing, skyscraper, it's just a series of fun games. So now we've done well enough to start entering into the fun institutional game. So I tend to buy and stay in the South. I buy, I say I'm a specialist. I buy one specific type of retail product consistently and have become an expert at it so that my investors make a lot of money because I know exactly what I'm doing. In fact, I now, thankfully, in the last probably 5 to 7 years, I get flooded with offering memorandums. So whether it's CBRE, Cushman Wakefield, Marcus Millichek, JLL, the biggest houses in the country now come to me. And I know most of their large brokers because they now know what an Azad deal looks like, Five Rivers deal looks like.
Yep.
We want it to be risk mitigated. So we want it to be outside of a major city, 20 to 40 miles. I want it to be a bedroom community, meaning I want upper middle class money coming at it and buying.
Yep.
I want there to be a strong economic base, not just, so I have 4 or 5 state capitals that I tend to buy in because I know that government is always going to make money. There's always going to be government workers that will spend money, right? That's trying to do economic base.
Yep.
There's a lot of automotive manufacturing now going on, no matter whether you're a foreign car or you're American in the South. So has to have a strong 2 or 3 or 4-prong economic base. It has to have a good demographic, meaning there have to be, I track how many elementary school permits have been pulled. I track what the demographics are for the age demographic. I track how many hospitals there are in the area, how many urgent care facilities there are in the area. The more urgent care, the younger the demographic is. The more VA hospitals and nursing homes, then you're aging out, and you're not going to have as strong a buying power for the next 20, 30 years. You know, when I go look at a property, I go and I spend a few days there. I go and I look at the rooftops. You know, what are the cars that are parked outside? You can see when you go through a city, as the houses get older, as the cars get older, about every 1 to 3 miles, you know whether there's new shopping, whether the movement is in that part of town. So we evaluate a lot of specs, whether they're boots on ground specs that we see from going and seeing the area and the schools and the employment base. But I also go and I interview I go into every store and I talk to the clerks. I look at the shopping, you know, the cars, are they full? I look at how the product in the stores have been staged. You know, if you've got good merchandising, you know that store is on the ball and they're doing well. So we evaluate from lots of different things, and we want to make sure that there's longevity to that cash flow that's going to be coming in. So we use a lot of different, I also use cell phones. I track the heat signatures. I can see how long they're on campus, where they move. If we know that they've been on campus longer than 46 minutes, it's likely that they've gone to 2 locations. When I do marketing events at my, I've spent the last 4 or 5 years doing lifestyle centers. So we do Puppy Palooza. We're on TV. We do Christmas events and parades. And, you know, we have a little house that we built, a tiny home where Santa is actually there. And we have the kids come in, photographs together.
I love that.
But if I'm going to be spending, you know, $300,000 a year in marketing budget, I want to track that the reason I'm spending that for that tenant, that it's drawing customers to that tenant. I better see those cell phones, not just that day, but there better be an uptick over the next month or 2.
Yeah.
And so when a tenant comes and wants to negotiate, like, oh, woe is me, I need a rent decrease. Really? Let me look at the cell phone sitting outside your parking lot.
Amazing. I mean, that's a lot of analysis that goes into, you know, managing your portfolio, the cell phone data. I did not know when I'm walking around a shopping center that the owner is tracking me and seeing how long I'm on campus. That is news to me on that side.
Yeah. The data is our friend. In fact, the last 6 months, I started a new division, and we do data centers now. We did one and it came out of retail, actually. Yeah. Bed Bath & Beyond, I had 4 of them, went through bankruptcy.
Yep.
I was like, okay. And I didn't know that you could sell leases. I was doing a lease with Barnes & Nobles, and then before I knew it, they bought out the lease that I had with Bed Bath & Beyond and came in at a lower rent. And I was like, what the? So then I was like, oh, I can raid a company for other stuff. Crazy. Found out that Bed Bath & Beyond had a recovery data center in North Carolina.
Wow.
It was $32 million, and I got it for 4.
What?
Right? Yeah.
Amazing.
So my investors made serious bank on it.
Absolutely.
So now we do data centers. I'm about to close in my 3rd one. And it's phenomenally lucrative, and my investors really like it because it gives us a little bit of a diversification and, again, risk mitigation.
That's wild. So it sounds like, you know, on the market research and the underwriting, it sounds like it's half data driven, but half, you know, how do you feel, right? So it sounds like you're going to the location and just talking to people and looking at cars.
Yes, I look at everything, and I talk to the shoppers. I will be in the parking lot, you know, pushing along a grocery cart, and I'll just talk to whoever's there. And I'll ask them, why do you shop here? Do you like it? What do you like about it? Why do you like it? How often do you shop here? I also believe in grassroots ownership. Every time I go and I look at a property to buy, I want shoppers who shop there to own where they're shopping.
Sure.
I don't want the conglomerates to be making money on us anymore. I want people to be making money on themselves.
I love
So
that.
yeah, there's a lot of analysis that goes into it, but a lot of it is just common sense.
Yeah.
You go there, you look around, and you ask yourself, is this somewhere that I'd like to shop?
Yep.
Does it look busy? Does it look bustling? Does it
Yep.
look healthy? Just like
Yes.
when I was a doctor and I was taking a pulse and I was doing vital signs. It's the same kind of perspective, but on a shopping center.
How does somebody, or how do you keep up with, or is it even worth keeping up with, commercial real estate market trends? I mean, it sounds like as an owner, you're on the forefront of the trend. So you just look at your own portfolio. Are there outside resources that you do use to see kind of where people think the market's going?
Oh yeah, there's great periodicals. Biz Now is a phenomenal, it's about 11, 12 million readership.
Yep.
They usually stay on top of trends. They've got a section that does just retail, just industrial, just multi mixed use. Just they've even got one for data centers now.
Yep.
So we have shout out for Biz Now. We Placer AI. That's the company. CoStar. That's So there's all these repositories of data now. Data is a very powerful tool because what it is it's just, imagine 1,000 of you using your eyeballs cataloging something, but now you can have it in one repository.
Yeah.
Right? So it's just people looking at stuff, writing it down in one little section.
Yeah.
And it's amazing. And I love the market trends. I didn't know that data centers were going to be such a big thing, but I paid attention because we are no longer manufacturing country anymore.
Right.
So what did we transition to? Data. When we see the movie theaters that are kind of going down because everybody streams at home, there's no such thing as a cloud, right? It all sits on hardware somewhere.
Right.
So as we shop differently, I don't go and I buy movie tickets anymore. I buy streaming. Well, now that I shop differently, that means that land isn't on physical land anymore. It's now on a server somewhere.
Amazing.
On land. So now it's still commercial real estate, but it's not dollars per square foot. Now it's dollars per kilowatt.
That's amazing.
That's the new tenure.
The new frontier. We got a couple minutes left. Give me your analysis on where do you think retail investments are heading over the next 10, 20 years? Do you see this as a growth opportunity? If so, where do you think it levels out? What do you think is going to happen?
I love being a landlord right now. Love it. I've never sat prettier being a landlord in 20 years. The 2008 crash sucked for the economy. Yeah. But it was amazing because the developers stopped one full cycle. So now when I had 4 Bed Bath & Beyonds go out, I had 3 Tuesday mornings go dark. I backfilled every single one of those locations within 2 to 3 months.
Wow.
Every single one gone. Now a new 10-year lease and at higher rent. It is a landlord's game right now.
Amazing.
Very lucky. We have never had high occupancy rates like we do right now in retail than ever before.
It's amazing.
Ever. Our cap rates, which is basically how valuable you think a piece of land is. It's basically collective. Like, we think this is like worth this. Our cap rates, we've always bought in the 8s, 8.5s.
Yep.
We're doing really well. The money is good. The rent is good. The laws governing depreciation and being able to get that mailbox money basically tax-free because you kick the can down the road so many generations that you've compounded your money that it pays the taxes for you. I encourage everybody I know, family, friends, strangers, get involved in investing.
Yep.
The reason I like real estate and commercial, Like, you are so smart to be, touting about investing. Because if you look at, I love educating. I love educating my investors because I'm so passionate about what we do. When you go into S&P 500, in 100 years, it's basically a 9.6% return. When you go into, bonds, index funds, stocks, you have to pay taxes on all that.
Yep.
So even if you're REITs typically do the best. They've taken a hit. Typically they're like 11, and now they're about 6, 7. Okay, whatever you got, the max is about 10. You pay taxes on it. Now you're getting about 6. And you're doing phenomenally well.
Yep.
Commercial real estate, you're going to be doing double digits for the most part, and you're not going to be paying taxes due to depreciation. You've got real estate is the only thing that allows appreciation of the asset, equity build. It allows depreciation of the asset, meaning you get cash flow that you don't have to pay taxes on, right?
Yep.
You have leverage. You don't have to put down $100. You can put down $20 for residential or $35 out of 100 for commercial. It allows you the opportunity to maximize and get the most bang for your buck than any other type of investment out there.
The biggest thing is to make sure that the person that you're investing in and the team is good at it, right? And they've done it before, and they've got a great track record, which obviously you guys do at Five Rivers. So I've got the studio's flashing the big red lights at me to get off to go to a commercial break. So I got to go. But how do the people watching the show keep up with you?
So come on, visit us online. It's 5 Rivers, RIVERS, CRE for commercial real estate. So 5rivers.com. We have an about us. There's a contact us. There's an invest with us. Give us a call. We have 4 offices nationwide now. I am always here. So is my team. And we believe in the power of the American populace. I want every American I know to become wealthy.
True passion. Thank you for coming on the show again. We're going to head to a commercial break, everybody. We'll be right back.
Have you ever had to hire multiple contractors? It is a daunting task that takes a lot of management time and impacts the core business or the company that time you're spent with your loved ones. At Texas Home Property Solutions, you can count on a responsible company that can tackle all your general contractor needs. Electricity, painting, remodeling, plumbing, air conditioning, and roofing. Hire us and forget it. With over 20 years of experience, Texas Home Property Solution will deliver your project on time and within budget, with the high level of quality and integrity, no matter the size or complexity. If you are a company, a government institution, or an individual who needs a general contractor, you need Texas Home Property Solution. Take a decisive step and call us today for a free consultation.
Taking a trip in the next 12 months? Airlines are under tremendous pressure, and they're practically giving away their unsold seats. Like every crisis, this one will end too. But right now is the best time to take advantage of giveaway ticket prices on their unsold seats. We're not allowed to publish these low fares online. The only way to get these rock bottom giveaway prices is to call. So phone low-cost airlines now for airline ticket prices you may never see again.
Hi, my name is Michelle Merhar. You may remember me from the morning news. I'd like to tell you how getting data and documents into action fast gives you a competitive edge. Digital-first thinking to manage document workflows efficiently are giving all organizations a competitive edge. In fact, digital document automation is an essential process, helping us to become more profitable and to compete. By making any process paperless with secure automation, decisions can be made efficiently, virtually from anywhere. You'll be able to find and share documents securely in seconds. Your staff will be empowered by making optimal use of every office hour. And by the way, the size of your organization doesn't matter. Precision Products has been helping organizations for more than 30 years with paper to digital processes, including scanning systems for any document to premises and cloud document management systems. We make it easy and scalable for your business process needs from the office or other locations, even mobile devices. Contact us to see how we can help your organization succeed. Contact Will Waterall direct at 713-446-5939 and visit us on the web at precisionproductsinc.com.
All right, welcome back, everybody. We've got a new guest on the show for you guys, Anne-Marie Vargas. She lives in California, but buys real estate in other parts of the country, which is super interesting. We get questions from people that watch the show all the time about wanting to learn how to invest in real estate, that they don't, they can't invest where they live, maybe in California, Florida, New York, expensive markets, but they want to buy real estate. They want to invest. They like passive income. They just don't know where or how to do it. So Anne-Marie, first of all, welcome to the show. We're excited to interview you and kind of get from the horse's mouth exactly how you did it. So thanks for joining on and jumping on with us today.
Hi, yeah, nice to meet you officially. So yes, I'm in San Diego, California, and as we know, California is a very expensive market on both coasts. And I was kind of in a limbo of what I wanted to do with my career. So I got out of retail and I decided I wanted to get into real estate investing. And I kind of was just one of those junkies listening to Bigger Pockets, listening to podcasts. And what really took off the trajectory of my career was I met my partner. My partner I actually met through real estate, through Bigger Pockets, and he was awesome. He already had about 8 properties, but he was very tenacious. We got along very well. It's a really, really great partnership overall. So he invited me out to Alabama. So we went out to Montgomery, Alabama, and I had heard about out-of-state investing, and I wasn't really intimidated by it. I think because I knew that California was just very expensive and there was no way with the money that I had, I was going to be able to afford anything in California.
Can't cash flow, right?
Yeah, cash flow.
Impossible.
So, of course. And San Diego now is one of the most expensive markets in the nation.
For sure. Yeah.
So went out to Alabama, and that was the first time I ever went to any other southern state. So it was amazing to see how the houses were older. You were able to add value. Once you're there and you're walking homes, it really takes away a lot of the fear because you realize that it's a business and people are there to answer your questions, and people are very helpful in the South and the Midwest. I love it. Yep. So being there, talking to contractors, talking to agents, and then with the numbers, obviously you're able to get cash flow, force appreciation. And that's really something with the income that I had at the time, not really being able to do that in my own backyard.
So you got introduced to a market through basically networking, which is amazing. So that's kind of step number one. And then, you went to the market to look at, properties that were there, to walk everything. I mean, it sounds like you bought some stuff that needed some work. So how did you avoid getting taken advantage of by contractors, 1,500 miles away?
Yes. So it's really great to build trust. So for example, when we would go out and have dinner with contractors, it was really more of a partnership, getting to know them. And I think sometimes too, it is about, the business side of it. But if you really want to build lasting relationships with these people, And in those markets, they're very tight knit. So usually you can, if you have a good contractor, they can introduce you to a lot of other people. So really it's just staying on top of their work. I mean, obviously no contractor, you kind of go through a few until you find one that's good. It's really just building relationships, I feel, and being able to convey that, you're serious, because, nobody wants to waste their time either.
So do you like sign a contract with these folks? Do you force accountability through pictures? Like along the way, how do you make sure that, what you were expecting to happen to this property is actually happening?
Yeah, so with contractors, they can send you videos, they could FaceTime you, send you live videos on the updates. I mean, there has been a few times where things fall through the cracks, obviously. So that's why you kind of have to have a few contractors like in place just in case. But overall, it's just really staying on top, because we know that, I mean, at least for me, I know that contractors sometimes can be a really difficult piece. So it's just finding somebody that you can trust and just trying to give it a go.
Yeah, no, it sounds great. So it sounds like it's been successful for you. You've been able to buy homes in Birmingham, and then Kansas City is the second city you invested in.
So with Kansas City, yes, I was able to help as acquisitions over there. And it was really amazing because I learned even more than I did in Alabama. And Alabama was more passive. And then with Kansas City, it was more like I took on the reins to find the agents, find the wholesalers. We went out there, and it was such an amazing experience because for the first time, I was able to really analyze the deal like all myself. And from there, be able to pass it on to know whether or not it was a good deal. So that one really gave me a lot of experience that then really I was able to take off and get into other forms of real estate investing.
That's really cool. So how do you calculate these deals before you get in and decide this is the deal that you want to buy? Do you run it through a deal calculator online? How do you find what the numbers are? How do you drill down to the actual numbers?
So every calculator and deal is different, obviously, and everybody has their buy box. But I would say overall, the 1% rule isn't really something that you're going to find that much. So if you could find something, and this is single family, obviously not really so much multifamily, but with single family, if you can find something within even 0.7% of the rents, and you're able to force a good amount of appreciation, that was kind of like the threshold. So like anything between 0.7% rents to like 1% would be amazing. Obviously, you can either turn it into a flip or you can turn it into a rental. So with that, we had different metrics of being able to see how much it would be able to appraise for. And in those markets, they have an abundance of inventory. So it's great. You can kind of figure out, every deal is so different over there.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, coming from somebody that I invest in Memphis, Tennessee, I had investments in Indianapolis. I've been to Kansas City a number of times, Birmingham, and there really is. I mean, Anne-Marie is exactly right. She hits the nail on the head. Like you can put a force appreciation in these homes by renovating and like doing something to them. But the big key and the key that everybody the question that everybody has is, how do you do all that from afar without getting taken advantage of? So it sounds like, you've just done your homework. You've networked with people. You've gotten introduced to contractors. You keep them accountable. In the final time we have left, I think we've got 4 minutes left. I'd like to know how you bank these properties. Are you going to local banks? Are you going to private money lenders? Like, are you doing cash out refinancing? The Burr method, is that essentially what these are?
Yeah, so for some of them, we had something in mind of essentially going into them. Like, for example, with one of my first property, I haven't seen any of my money hasn't come out. It was essentially supposed to be a Burr. So you go into it sometimes with one idea and it turns into something else. For the most part, they were hard money. So hard money, which then a few of them were sold. And then I have one right now that is currently, it was supposed to be sold a lot sooner, but when the market kind of took a shift, that we weren't able to sell it as quickly. So essentially hard money. I wouldn't always necessarily recommend hard money if you're new. I would definitely say look for a mentor, look for somebody who's able to hold your hand so you don't get caught with your pants down. But hard money essentially is a great way to get started if you're really eager to do it. And if you have the confidence and the know-how, I would say go for it. but obviously hard money, and then you can refinance, sell it. I've kind of been more on the side of Burr does have potential, but if you're low on cash, I would definitely recommend doing a little bit of flips and some Burr, because you want to be able to recycle your money as quickly as possible.
Yeah, no, you're right. You've got to build up cash somehow to buy and hold real estate. So what does the future look like for Anne Marie's business? Are you going to do a lot of wholesaling this year as you add units to the portfolio?
So I'm actually more itching to get into multifamily. I feel like for me, what I've noticed with single family is it's great. If you're playing the long-term game, definitely hold on to it, add it to your portfolio. But for an investor, you kind of itch to make more money more quickly. Yep. So I've kind of just been looking to get more into multifamily just to kind of have my money work a little bit harder. So that's kind of what I'm looking to do next.
That sounds great. Well, Anne Marie, thanks for joining us. Thanks for being a guest on the show. Love to see you back again sometime. And best of luck with everything in 2024. So we're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back, everybody.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
Are you nearly maxed out on your credit cards? It doesn't matter if you're using your credit cards for fun or to survive. At the end of the month, your statements come in, and you can either pay them or you can't. If you can't, late fees and interest rates get tacked on. And now you're struggling just to make the minimum payment due. Do you feel trapped? Am I talking to you? Good, because I personally researched some companies that can help you. They may be able to reduce your credit card balances by 50% and stop the late fees. If you qualify, please call our special debt hotline number right now for a complimentary free 5-minute consultation. Deal with your credit card problem now before it gets much worse and put more money back in your pocket. Trust me, I've been there too. Call right now.
Call 855-993-2096 right now. That's 855-993-2096.
Taking a trip in the next 12 months? Airlines are under tremendous pressure and they're practically giving away their unsold seats. Like every crisis, this one will end too. But right now is the best time to take advantage of giveaway ticket prices on their unsold seats. We're not allowed to publish these low fares online. The only way to get these rock bottom giveaway prices is to call. So phone low-cost airlines now for airline ticket prices you may never see again.
No stranger to the show anymore. Gino Barbaro from Jake and Gino. You guys have probably seen Jake and Gino on social media. They're all over the place. Multifamily educators, more than educators, they're investors. So Gino, you're not somebody who, bought one apartment complex and then created a course. You guys have $300 million in assets under management and 1,800 units. At what size was your business when you decided to build, the mentorship program of your business?
Andrew, we call ourselves the gurus. We're the gurus who are actually doing it. And I think that's the important distinction, because if you're going to get into business and you're going to teach somebody about real estate's constantly changing. And by the way, we're closing our third deal this year. So we're still in acquisition mode. We're just focusing on the assets that we're really focused on ourselves. But we started back in 2015-ish, end of 2015. We wrote the book, Wheel Out Profits. At that time, we had a little over 200 units. And I said to myself, I'm going to start this mentorship. I'm going to monetize and make a ton of money. It's really hard to make money in education. But what's really great about education is you become a much better investor. I've been able to speak to Michael Franzese this week, the mob guy. I've been able to speak to J.P. Sears. I've been able to speak to T. Harv Eker, Robert Kiyosaki, Dr. Gary Chapman. The list goes on and on. Ken McElroy, all the high-level investors. How many hundreds of thousands of dollars would I've had to spend to be able to speak to them? That's what the education has allowed me to do. And we've gotten to be such better investors through it. I live by the mantra, learn, do, and then teach. And then from teaching, you'll learn so much more from your students, and you'll learn so much more from what's going on in the business world. That's how we came out with the buy right, the manage right, the finance right, our 3-step framework. That's how we came out with the honeybee, creating multiple streams of revenue. We were doing it, and they're like, you know what, let's document it, and let's get really focused on our business. And that's how we're able to scale our businesses. And oh, by the way, this is great. Let's create a brand so the brokers know us. Hey, Jake and Gino's looking for a deal. And all of a sudden, that gives you much more exposure. So if you're going into the mentorship or education just to monetize, you are missing the bigger picture. The opportunities that come from mentorship are immeasurable. They're innumerable.
You mentioned learning from your students, which I think is like a really cool thing to say, because, you know, you're not just telling them. You're actually, you know, gleaning and learning off of them. I read a stat that your students have closed close to 100,000 units and spent how many billions of dollars in deal volume? It's astronomical.
It's pretty cool because the students, and like any other venture, it takes a couple of years to start. So in 2016, there wasn't that much momentum. 2017, 2018, then all of a sudden you look back in the last 7 years, we're at almost 80,000 units the students have closed that I can document, that I can go out and say, hey, John closed 50 units, Mary closed 30 units. They've raised over $400 million for deals. We don't typically syndicate, Jake and myself. We use our own capital, but we've syndicated 3 deals, and we've taught students how to build that brand and how to raise capital. And it's over $5 billion in deal volume. And that's why the community is awesome. You're not joining the community for a couple of YouTube videos. You can watch YouTube videos at home. You're building it because you know what? I've got a coaching call next week. I better get my homework done. And I'm coming out to this event next month. I've got a deal. Where am I going to find the capital? Oh, there's students in that room that have capital. I'm looking for a partner somewhere. That's what you're looking for. You're looking for someone to hold your hand and to help you along, because when you get kicked in the gut, we're talking about, or you get punched in the face in business, you can slink away. I didn't have that opportunity because I was not letting my partner Jake down, and I'm not letting the Jake and Gino community down. So I'm going to put out as much as I can every day, not to let them down. I'll let myself down, but I can't let them down. So that mindset of doing that will keep you going. That's what I love for me about the education personally.
Gino, are your students, you know, the members of Jake and Gino mentorship program, are they all over the country? Is this pretty much a national brand?
They are. And I'll tell you something that's really interesting. When we were going through our avatars, Andrew, you are one of our avatars, people in the single family space that want to get into multifamily. They just know that single family is great, but if I can close 1 or 2 deals a year instead of having to close 10 or 12 deals a year, wouldn't that make sense, right? That's number one. Number two, anyone who's a professional, who's a doctor or a lawyer, wants to get into it, they can get in the syndication route. Anyone has a small business, understands the business world. Well, you know what? Multifamily really is an extension of the business world. And I think the third set is people who have multifamily. They may have 10, 50, even 3, 4, 500 units, but they need to scale. That manage right portion of the framework, we really excel at that because we love to teach it. We're vertically integrated. We have our own property management company. So if you're out there, whether you're looking to scale a property management company or whether you're looking to hire third-party property management, that's where the challenges come. And we're there to hold your hand. We have coaches that can teach you all about that. That's really important.
This may not be a fair question, but you got me thinking a little bit as you were talking about scaling and helping people scale. To me, the holy grail is when you get your portfolio grows to a point where you can grow out of net income and you're not having to raise money, you're not having to refinance profits out and plunge to the next deal. At what point do you think is the right, you know, scale where you can do that? You can grow out of income instead of refi or raising capital.
Andrew, that's a really excellent question because it's different for everybody, but I can share with you our journey. And for anybody who's getting into it, don't quit your day job today. I actually stayed in the restaurant business for 5 years from that first day I met Jake when he moved down to Knoxville in 2011. It took us 18 months to find the first deal. I may have been able to leave after that first or second deal, but I said, no, let me reinvest my profits back into the real estate and let me live off of my income that's coming from the restaurant. It took me 5 years from the day I met Jake, 3 years after I bought that first deal. So within a 5 years time span, I was able to leave the restaurant, focus on real estate full time. And at that point, I was cash flowing more than enough to live off of real estate. And then from there, our mindset, our mantra is let's buy a couple of really good deals a year where we know we can force the appreciation. And our mindset was let's refinance these properties. It's a loan back to you. So it's not what you make, it's what you keep. You have the tax benefits of cost segregation where you're not paying taxes. There's another accelerator. The velocity of money becomes really great at around year 5. You're able to reinvest all of that money, the loan, the proceeds from refinances, the tax savings that you have into the next deal, and you continue that party along. By year 7 or year 8, you are man, air guitar at that point, brother.
Yeah, I love it. Talk to us about cost segregation. That's a topic that people are slowly starting to become more familiar with and comfortable with. Nobody was doing it in the single family world in my world until really a year or so ago. Is that a strategy that you like for everybody getting into multifamily?
It's one of those things where it really is. It's an engineered study. It's macro accelerated cost recovery system. Now, I'm not an accountant. I'm not going to give any legal advice. I know a guy. If you want my guy, I can connect you with my guy. Well, it basically does. It breaks down the components. Multifamily is depreciated over a 27.5-year time span. You're going to be breaking it down into 5-year, I think 10-year and 15-year buckets. Flooring may last 10 or 15 years. Roof may be 27.5 years. Fixtures may be 5 years. What ends up happening is you front load all that depreciation. And, the 2017 Jobs Act made it 100% bonus where you're able to take all that depreciation the first 15 years and front load it all 100%. Now, end of 2023, it's going down to 80%. And I think in 2024, it's going to go down to 60%. But still, you're really accelerating the depreciation. You're able to wipe off a lot of depreciation day one. And it's a phenomenal strategy. Now, if you are a real estate professional and you're in the business of real estate, you're able to take all of that depreciation and put it up against your income, your active income against those losses. I mean, a lot of investors have negative adjusted gross income. They don't end up paying federal taxes. For those of you who are not real estate professionals, you're just getting a massive amount of depreciation where you can, wipe off any passive income against those passive losses. I would still do it. By law, accountants have told me, accountants have told me that it's really sort of required. It's an engineered study. You're breaking down the components, and then you can do something called a recapture. When you're doing a roof, you can actually recapture more cost segregation as well. I'll just challenge everybody, drive down the street. When you see a hotel every 3 or 4 years doing their fixing up and they're painting and they're replacing a roof or doing a driveway, that's based on the tax law. Tax laws are based on stimulating behavior, and they're getting tax breaks for doing that. They're doing it for their business, but they're also doing it for tax breaks. So if these big corporations are doing it, why aren't the mom and pops like Andrew, like Jake and Gino doing it? And one last point, the reason why you're doing it in single families, the cost studies have come down dramatically
100%.
because of the technology. So if you have a house that's worth $250,000, $300,000, I would still see if cost segregation makes sense on that deal. I would venture to say it would.
100%. Yeah, you can get it done on a single family home for $400 to $450. It's kind of a do-it-yourself study, but it's based on thousands and thousands of units. There's big sophisticated accounting firms that do it. Jake, have you guys gotten to the point where you're self-segregating as you spend CapEx on a project? You're repositioning an asset. You know exactly what you're buying. You're spending money on a roof. You're spending money on cabinets. Are you segregating as you pay invoices within QuickBooks or however you pay bills?
Yeah, we have AppFolio, so we actually do that, and it's important every year that you're doing that. We have that CapEx, and it's funny. I was going through my CapEx calculator with my bookkeeper today. Basic amount of CapEx you have in there, and as you're doing it monthly, bills going in, what are you replacing, and then you're going to see how much money you have budgeted every month, and then we're taking a look at how many units we're turning. We bought a property in January that had 132 units. Now we're end of November right now. We have almost 90 units out of that 132 completely repositioned and returned, and what we call on a Jake and Gino lease. So you need to keep track of that because, man, you throw receipts in the garbage, you're throwing money in the garbage.
Yes, totally agree. It's funny how you get into the business and every single year you look at your general ledger and you're just like, or your chart of accounts rather, and you're like, we need to change this on the chart of accounts because I want to dig into the numbers a little bit more. But I mean, back to your point, you're trying to squeeze every little drop in net income out of that business because that is what is valuable to you in the multifamily world. I mean, in single family world too, but that's what you can sell. Do you ever sell anything?
We do. We've sold around 600 units. We've sold our syndications. We've gone full cycle on 2 syndications. We sold a couple smaller deals where they became functionally obsolescent. We had a portfolio of 146 units we bought back in 2017. We sold an 18 unit because it was up on a hill. We got a great price point for it. We made money on it. So we just took that money and bought another deal. There was another 20 unit portfolio in there that had central air. It didn't have central air. It had in-wall air units. Resident base wasn't what we wanted, but we made a ton of money on it. So there's always a reason why we're selling these assets. We're not selling them just to recoup capital. We're selling them because we want to either reposition the money, or you know what, the market's at a high and we can't extract any more value from this. Or if you don't like the area, if you don't like all of a sudden something that's going on with the market, you should sell that asset. And, you know, fortunately for us, we love the Knoxville market. So when we buy something, we focus on that buy right criteria that we had mentioned. That asset fits that buy right criteria. Why wouldn't we want to hold it for 10 or 15 or 20 years?
Love it. Gino, until we meet again, this has been great. Thank you so much for the time being on the show. See you in just a few minutes, everybody.
Thanks, Andrew.
This has been a Now Media Networks feature presentation. All rights reserved.
Attention timeshare owners. This is an urgent consumer alert from the Timeshare Exit Hotline, a national company specializing in helping consumers legally get out of their expensive timeshare contracts. We're offering you a way to legally get rid of your timeshare. So if you're fed up with the maintenance fees that keep on coming and want to learn if you can terminate your timeshare legally and permanently, call today. Call the number on your screen today. It's a free call.